If you've never voted for a write-in candidate, it might be time to consider it. Welcome to the Rob Lett Show. I'm your host, Rob Lett. Some of the best things in life are the things that you didn't plan. They just sort of happen naturally. I never had plans to interview anyone on my channel. The opportunity just sort of fell into my lap. Since all of this happened at once, I needed to carve out a special place for all of the interviews I've been doing. I'm calling this playlist The Spotlight, where I interview people who you may or may not know, but they're playing a critical role in the advancement of conservative culture. So you may want to look them up. Today on The Spotlight, we have Dr. Lisa Babbage. She was born in Philadelphia. She's an activist.
Even before that, I was standing outside my local Planned Parenthood, boycotting, picketing, informing my classmates about life, God's most precious gift.
She's an author of some 22 books, as well as a film producer. She's been a teacher for over 18 years in DeKalb County, and she's running for the 7th Congressional District of Georgia. I only had a few minutes to sit down with Lisa to discuss why she's running for office. But before we get started, I'd like you to go ahead and do a few things. First of all, like this video, subscribe to it. If you're on YouTube, to the upper right-hand corner, you'll see a bell. That's a notifications bell. Click it, and it'll notify you the next time we release a new show. If you're on Rumble, though, to the upper right-hand corner, you'll see a share button. Click it, and it'll share this video with a friend of yours who should have been here with us today. Go ahead and do all of those things that apply right now. Welcome to the Rob Lett Show. I'm your host, Rob Lett, and today I am at the Georgia Unite Conference in Cherokee, Georgia, and I am with this person who was born in Philadelphia, born and raised, and also she is an activist, she's an author, she's been an educator for over 18 years, and she's also running for the Georgia Congressional District, the 7th Congressional District.
7th
So great. So I am here with Dr. Lisa Babbage. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm
How
so
are you
glad
doing?
you're here. I am excited. We've had a great show so far. It's just wonderful for people to get together and share knowledge and truth, and it's awesome.
I realized as much as you and I kind of text each other back and forth, I just realized that until I started watching some interviews of yours, I was like, I realized we kind of talked, but I didn't know much about your background. So I started watching and I was like, you've been through like a lot to still want to serve the public. I mean, you're a cancer survivor, a tumor survivor, you've been homeless before, and so what makes Lisa tick?
Well, there's two parts of my life. There's BC, before Christ, and then there's afterwards. And honestly, before that supernatural encounter with the Lord, a lot of what made me tick was pleasure. Honestly, it's what interests me of the day. I'm a longtime nerd, so I would always get involved with things that stimulated my mind, and I love sports. Those are the kinds of things that I did, and writing is just a hobby. So that's really how I spent the bulk of my life, even though I was always a volunteer girl, because as you said, I experienced a lot of things in my young life, and so I always tried to give back. But honestly, it wasn't until I was radically saved that I realized there was purpose behind all those actions, whether good or bad. And that's when I tried to be really intentional about how I spend my time now. And so that I started a nonprofit to give back more intentionally, and have just really been engaged since then based on that revelation that we all have to lend a hand to communities that are struggling.
Another thing that I didn't realize too, in watching some of your interviews, is that so you're biracial.
I am.
And I appreciate the fact that you don't do like we've seen some people who shall remain nameless, Obama, that just throws half of their heritage under the bus for political expediency. So I imagine I always say that people's experiences is what makes them, everything that they've gone through. So what type of conversations in your household have made you who you are today? Because I imagine you're hearing a history from both sides, or opinions from both sides.
Correct.
So how has that impacted your...
I have to thank my mother. She says she left the Democrat Party when she was 8 years old, and she raised us to be conservatives. And the interesting thing is my mother is black. My father is the white Australian immigrant who benefited from America's generosity and genius. And he's the one who is now in his golden years turned liberal. So we do have those dual conversations across the kitchen table. But here's a funny story. I was visiting with my father during the pandemic in Mexico. And on the night before I had to leave, I started asking him a series of questions. How does he feel about standardized tests in education? How does he feel about our open border? How does he feel about all sorts of things? And we agreed on every single issue.
Yeah,
I said, Dad, do you know what that means? And he says, are you a liberal? I said, no, Dad, you're a conservative. You know, the funny thing is we can find common ground with people who vote differently than we do. We just have to take the time to seek it out because we agree on more things than we differ on.
Right.
And I love the fact that my mother raised me to appreciate my Australian heritage. You know, even though my parents divorced when I was 3, I was not raised with my father. She always made a point to point out that there's more than what you see because everyone else saw it. The biracialness, if you want to call it that, you know. And so when we get teased or called names by people who we thought looked like us, but wanted to make a point to say, you don't quite look like me, she gave us the explanation why. She didn't keep us ignorant. And she found that middle ground for us when we were children. And that's a beautiful thing. You know, a lot of parents don't advocate for their kids in that way.
Right. So you've been an educator in DeKalb County, right?
Correct.
For over 18 years.
Correct.
So one of the things I've noticed that everyone has been so up in arms about critical race theory, but almost every single time when I hear people giving their opinion on critical race theory, they're not educators. So I'd like to know from an educator. So what is critical race theory, and is this something that parents should be concerned about?
I mean, it's definitely something that parents should be concerned about. Critical race theory started in Marxist theory. It was a social class struggle, and it got adopted in America. And it started in upper education, higher ed, and it's kind of just trickled down to K-12. Honestly, it is basically using race, where social status used to be in place, of the haves and the have-nots. We've all heard of that. So now it's the have and the have-nots, but it's race. So it's the black and the black knots, you know, basically. It's the melanin and the no melanin, you know. And so that's why we get these terms like brown and I can't even think of what it, brown and black people. You know, I'm like, isn't that all black? It used to be all black, but now it's like we got the browns and, oh, okay. So, I mean, it's all political expediency, as you said. And honestly, you know, parents need to be aware of it, because instead of saying, oh, my child's a nerd, or my child's an artist, or my child's a jock, or my child's this, that, and the third, your child is either the oppressor or the oppressed. That's what critical race theory boils down to. It gives only 2 assignments for a child's future. You're either perpetually an oppressor because you are non-melanated, or you are perpetually oppressed because you are. And that gives a child nothing to hope for. That gives a child nothing to strive for, and it truly takes away purpose.
Right. So when my dad found out that I was running a podcast and everything, and you probably, obviously you did go through with it, but I was going to say, when my dad found out that I was doing this, one of the questions that always pops up is, hey, you should run for office. Or have you ever thought about running for office? And my answer is always no, I don't have any interest in that. Right. So what made you decide that you wanted to run for office?
I truly felt like I heard from God. You know, in 2019, I think it was, my congressperson decided to retire. So I was a volunteer, as I always have, and I asked, you know, fellow conservatives, who do we have to look at? Who's in the farm team? And the list of names I was given were completely unacceptable. And I have always been the type of person that says, if no one else is going to do it, I'm going to do it. That goes from taking out the trash to running for Congress. And they really are the same thing, because we have a lot of trash that has been running our country. And I don't mean that to say not valued, but spoiled.
Right.
We have a spoiled group of elites that are running our country, and they are playing games with our children. They're playing games with all of our future and our freedoms. And so I decided to run as a conservative. I was stabbed in the back by conservatives who decided I was not their choice. And I'm running again anyway.
Amen.
Amen.
And I want to thank you. I want to thank you, first of all, for this opportunity, because for my viewers who don't know, they just know that I had some interviews. All of a sudden, everyone was like, okay, Rob's got this little podcast. And then all of a sudden it was like, hey, Rob's got interviews with Dr. Alveda King and Trevor Loudon and Katie Hopkins. Like, how the heck did that happen? Lisa, thank you. Because it's so important. I just finished saying when I was talking to Trevor Loudon earlier, and I was saying the same thing to Katie Hopkins. I was at Governor Kemp's, there was a rally that he had with Shirley Winters with WSB. And there was an individual, we passed the mic around and let people ask some questions. And there was a guy who was a Democrat, and he approached the microphone and he says, listen, he says, I'm a Democrat. And he says, but I support you, Governor Kemp, because he said, you keep your word on every single thing that you promised. And he says, I've been following your wife and her stance on human trafficking. And he says, and she's been keeping her word. And he says, I think what you guys are doing is great, but here's the key part. He says, I think you guys are just awful about promoting what you do. And so I wanted to thank you, because I could be this little guy out there just making videos, but to know that you were watching my videos, and not just watching them, but to say, Rob, this would be a great opportunity for you to promote it, because we're all sharing the same message.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for that, because I do realize this is a blessing. So I immediately took off work.
It's my pleasure, because honestly, if we don't do this kind of thing, if we don't be that rising tide that lifts all boats, we're going to see a lot of people who look like us left out. And you know, I've told Governor Kemp the same thing. We got to work on our marketing. We got to work on our messaging. We got to make sure that we convey actually what's happening. And you know, when I watched your podcast, it was funny because we have a mutual friend. But I said, hold on, that podcast spoke to me. What's the phone number? Let me call him right now. And then, you know, let's see if he can come to Georgia and do this, because you have such an articulate way of sharing truth. And I think you're meeting the needs of people who have needs to be met. And so I'm just happy to partner with you.
Well, thank you. So what do you want? Is there something specific that you want to address in Gwinnett County? Because that's District 7, right?
Correct.
Is there something specific that you want to address in Gwinnett County? Or?
Well, you know, interestingly enough, Gwinnett County was the fastest growing county in America for 7 consecutive years. I think we're number 11 now, but we're also one of the most diverse counties in America. Gwinnett County is America. So when the 7th district is divided, or people in the 7th district don't have their needs met, it's really a symptom of what's happening in the greater scale of the country. What I want to see in America, or in Gwinnett County, I should say, in the 7th district includes also South Forsyth and the Johns Creek area of Fulton. But what I want to say to those voters, guys, the two-party system is never what our founding fathers envisioned. They wanted us to have the freedom to choose. And we really need to look at candidates who are on the ballot. I'm running as a write-in candidate. I didn't do that in 2020, but I did it this time, and it seems to be serving a proper purpose, because it takes away the excuse of people who have voted Democrat to feel like, I can't vote for a Republican. It takes away the excuse of people who have left the Republican Party and just disengaged altogether. We have many of them in Gwinnett County. That, you know, they now feel like that olive branch has been extended to them through a candidacy like myself, because I'm showing that it's not so much the party, it is the platform, trust me on that, but I don't have party allegiance above public allegiance. And that's what our elected officials need to recognize. It's not about the team that they're representing, it's the people that they're representing. So I just want to say to all the voters in the 7th district is to check me out on BabbageForCongress.com or LisaNoelBabbage.com. Look up some of the videos that Rob was talking about, because, you know, between the documentary that I did last year, Systematic Deception, and everything that I've done over the course of 25 years of being a volunteer and just an advocate in the 7th district, there's a wealth of information out there on me. And I would say look for yourself, kick the tires, take a test drive.
Awesome. I'm honored to get a chance to meet you finally in person.
Yes.
We've just been talking on the phone. So
That's
thank
right.
you.
Thank you, Rob.
Awesome to meet you.
God bless.
But Lady Liberty says something that's so poignant. She says, give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. That's the child in the womb. A huddled mass yearning to breathe free, to have a chance to live out the character of his creed. When we abort, we deny that child what every immigrant who has come to this country has been given through our Constitution, a chance at life, liberty, and a pursuit of happiness. That gift deserves that. That child in the womb deserves that.
I hope you liked my brief discussion with Dr. Lisa Babbage. Be sure to comment below. Tell me what you thought, who you'd like to see, and why. I'll do my best to put a spotlight on the people who are fighting for you. Cheers to your freedom.